Call the meeting to order. Before we have the meeting, we're going to take care of a little business in accordance with 940 CMR 2910, remote participation adopted by Greater Lowell Technical School Committee on April 17, 2014. Committeeman Millay, oh, this is a good one. Committeeman LeMay will be participating at tonight's meeting remotely due to geographic distance. Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. O'Hare, Mr. Sheehan,
Yes.
Mr. Moran,
Yeah.
Mr. Bahu,
Here.
Mr. Booton,
I'm here.
Mr. Tatsias,
Here.
Mr. Gigi, Mr. LeMay. Mr. LeMay.
Yes.
Okay, motion to open the public meeting, motion to open the public hearing. Is there anybody here to speak?
We need a motion to open it.
Okay, motion to open the meeting by Mr. Moran, second by Mr. Booton. Roll call.
Mr. O'Hare, Mr. Sheehan, Mr. Sheehan,
Yes.
Mr. Moran,
Yes.
Mr. Bahu,
Yes.
Mr. Booton,
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias,
Here.
Mr. Gigi,
Yes.
Mr. LeMay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on the fiscal year 2020 budget for Greater Lowell Tech? Okay. Nobody in the session? A motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sheehan, second by Mr. Tatsias. Roll call.
O'Hare, Mr. Sheehan,
Yes.
Mr. Moran,
Yes.
Mr. Bahu,
Yes.
Mr. Booton,
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias,
Yes.
Mr. Gigi, Mr. LeMay.
Okay.
Yes.
If Mr. Mastrocola and Mr. Garabedian could take over the meeting to give us a brief overview of the fiscal year 2020 budget, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. As you know, the budget process started back in October with instructors submitting funding requests for their programs, followed by department head review of numerous budget meetings with the superintendent, manager, assistant
Kayama
superintendent.
Ortiz, please report to the security booth. Kayama Ortiz, security booth, please.
Followed by two finance subcommittee meetings for review and input. Proposed budget is based on the Chapter 70E, the minimum required contribution amount of the member communities, based on the governor's proposed budget release on January 23rd, 2019. In addition, the district is also assessing a portion of transportation costs of $866,700 and $1,435,930 for debt service.
So the proposed fiscal year 2020 budget is $46,655,114. This represents an increase of approximately 4.9% or $2,197,572. This difference is made up of increases in the state aid for $1,347,551, increase in minimum contribution assessments and the debt and transportation assessment of $446,141, and the district increase in E&D in the amount of $403,880. As you know, we only assess the minimum required contribution to the member communities and the debt service and the transportation per the regional agreement. We're not asking for anything higher than the minimum contribution.
Some of the brief highlights, as we've discussed, which I believe, from an educational standpoint, make an incredible impact on our school district and provide direct services for our students. 6 new instructional positions added, 1 new custodial added, 1 maintenance from full-time to part-time to full-time. Also in our budget includes increased technology throughout the district, increased materials for text and media, $340,000 for a continued network and wireless infrastructure, and $500,000 for the beginning stages of our football field, stadium field lighting project. This all comes in with some good planning, as you all know, and I do believe that with the budget we have, we can certainly make an impact, not only in the direct services, but a correlation to student achievement as we get into the school year next year.
Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Booth?
Something I was thinking about when you were talking about the funding, Governor, is there any possibility we have a situation like we did 2-3 years ago where at the last hour, June, we could get more funding from the state? Has there been any talk of that, or?
I think there's a very good chance that's going to happen, as you all know, and Mr. Booth mentioned that last year, late in June, actually early July, we got an extra $249,000. As you know, throughout the state, they're talking about changing the funding formula, specifically Chapter 70 and some other type of items around funding schools. Perhaps transportation could get funded a little bit higher. We usually see that happen. I also think that we would also see an increase in security. I think that has been on the table recently. Today, tomorrow and Friday are 2 big days at the State House where a lot of the discussion is happening, a lot of advocacy is happening on school funding. So there's very much a good chance that we see a higher number, and we will be prepared to come to the committee at that time to be able to talk about some of those expenditures and have the committee review that at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms.
there's a
Moore?
big editorial in today's paper about more funding for vocational schools, more push for vocational schools. So, I know, it's good. I know.
Hopefully that'll benefit more students across the school district as well as across the state. Anybody else on the budget discussion?
I think I'm good.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion to approve the preliminary budget for fiscal year 2020 here at Greater Lowell Technical High School.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Moran, seconded by Mr. Booton. Roll call.
Mr. O'Hare? Mr. Sheehan?
Yes.
Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Booton?
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias? Mr. Gigi? Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mastrocola, Mr. Garabedian, and everyone that's in attendance here, to listen to how we're moving forward here at Greater Lowell Technical High School. And we have a school committee meeting coming up in about 15 minutes, so I could entertain a motion for a 15-minute recess.
So moved.
Someone would like to do that. Motion by Mr. Sheehan to recess for 15 minutes, seconded by Mr. Tatsias. Roll call.
Mr. O'Hare? Mr. Sheehan?
Yes.
Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Booton?
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias? Mr. Gigi? Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Perfect.
Great.
Okay, Mr. Mastrocola?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Tonight we have 3 freshman students representing our school. Raquel Ruiz is a freshman from Tingsboro, entered from the Tingsboro Middle School. She's a member of Skills USA and enjoys volunteering for school activities. Also, we have Sion Rowan, who's a freshman student from Lowell, entered from the Robinson Middle School. He's a member of the track and field team and is interested in enrolling in health assisting pre-nursing. Also, we have Kylie Rosario, freshman student from Lowell, entered from the Wayne Middle School. She's a member of Shane's anti-bullying program and dances on the No Bully Zone dance team. Welcome Raquel, Sion, and Kylie for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great job. Been practicing that for years.
You want a handshake? Yeah, sure. Good job. Nice job, guys.
I think I'm gonna get him after the report, a student that represented him. That's how long I'm doing it for. Yep. I got it. In accordance with 940 CMR 2910, remote participation adopted by the Greater Lowell Technical School Committee on April 17, 2014, Committeeman LeMay will be participating at tonight's meeting remotely due to geographic distance. If we could have a roll call, please, Ms. Gosselin?
Mr. O'Hare?
Here.
Mr. Sheehan?
Yeah.
Mr. Moran?
Yeah.
Mr. Bahu?
Here.
Mr. Booton?
I'm here.
Mr. Tatsias? Mr. Gigi?
Here.
Mr. LeMay? Oh, he's not there.
Okay.
They couldn't get him.
Terrific. School committee communications, Mr. Moran, has anybody signed up to speak?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. If we could have the report of our student representative. Hello.
Hello. The Outing Club recently went snowshoeing along the Nashua River in Groton to look for wildlife and geocaches. The National Technical Honor Society is running a food drive through the math department starting on March 11th. They will be donating this food to the End 68 Hours of Hunger program, which works to give students who would otherwise go hungry during the weekend a backpack of food to eat during those 68 hours. The homeroom that collects the most food donations will win a pizza party. The Skills USA District 4 competition was held here at Greater Lowell on March 14th with 194 194 students, competitors participating in the event. We are proud to announce that 62 students received medallions at the award ceremony. Of those students, gold and silver medalists will represent Greater Lowell at the state conference and technical events, and one competitor has qualified to campaign for state executive council. In addition, Greater Lowell swept the competition in computer programming, painting and design technology, web design, welding, and welding sculpture. The Senior Class Planning Committee is planning for a number of senior activities and getting ready to sell prom tickets at the end of March. Prom tickets will be on sale from March 18th through the 29th. GLTHS Drama Club's performance of 10 Ways to Survive the End of the World and 14 Lines will be held on Thursday, April 11th and Friday, April 12th at 6 p.m. in the lecture hall. Tickets will be sold at the door, $3 for students and $5 for teachers. Student Council will be attending the ADL's 25th Annual Youth Congress on Friday, April 12th at the Sheraton Boston Hotel. Students will be able to explore the nature and impact of free justice and develop strategies that promote inclusive school communities. For athletics, our Griffin student athletes recently wrapped up another successful winter season. Some of the highlights include boys basketball advanced to the MIAA section semifinal for the 4th time in 6 years, beating Tingsboro and Bellingham before dropping a 66-62 heartbreaker to Hudson. The varsity team also qualified for the state vocational tournament, while the JVs finished the season with a perfect 19-0 record. Girls basketball advanced to the MIAA quarterfinal round, topping West Boylston before falling to defending champion Maynard in a hard-fought game. The varsity team will return 7 players who played significant roles, and combined with successful JV and freshman programs, the future looks bright for the Lady Griffins. Swim and dive finished 2nd overall at the state vocational meet, narrowly missing out on the state title by only a few points. Several team members also qualified for the MIAA sectional meet. The Griffin wrestlers once again competed with the state's best teams and finished with a winning dual quad meet record. 7 members also placed at the MIAA D2 North Sectional, as well as a 3rd place finisher at the first ever MIAA State Girls Meet. Indoor track continued to grow in their 2nd varsity season, qualifying several runners for the MIAA Indoor State Meet. The Griffin cheer team placed among the top teams in several invitational competitions this winter. With the number of returning athletes, the fall season should be another successful one for the program. Congratulations to junior programming and web development student Anthony Villa, who was named Youth of the Year by the Boys and Girls Club of Lowell.
Oh, very nice.
Thank you very much.
Have a
Thanks
great
for the
night.
good news. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to take this meeting out of order just for a moment to recognize someone who's sitting in our audience, who was the former Draker representative for this school committee, and our former chairman just a few months ago, who chose to run for state senate and unfortunately had to leave this board. but we are very thankful for what he's done here, and he did a number of things in his 4-year tenure here from 2014 to 2018. Some of them were working hard on our $66 million building project that was done on time, under budget. Also, he worked hard in increasing the student enrollment here at this school. During his time here, the student enrollment went up over by 100 students. He also came to many of our events here at the school, whether they were social gatherings, or they were municipal events, or they were something that was working on behalf of the students, such as a Skills USA or athletic programs. And Joe was a person, and it is Joe Espinola, and he was a person that worked hard on behalf of the students at all times, and they were always in his heart. So I just want to say to Joe, thank you for the service that you offered to our school, and thank you for benefiting our community over those 4 years. So you could come on up here, Joe. We wanted to give you a plaque. That's if we came up with something a little better.
Rocking chair?
Yeah, it's not a rocker.
It's a glider, Joe.
I figured you could sit down in your backyard and remember the times that you had here. And we have an insignia here that says Greater Lowell Technical High School with appreciation, Joe Espinola III, School Committee from 2014 to 2018.
Pulled out of the seat.
You need a footstool?
Oh, you need a systemic perpetual.
Thanks. I gotta get the plaque here too.
Huh? Yeah.
Wow, they misspelled your name.
And he didn't know the difference.
They didn't really, did they?
No, teasing. There you go. Yeah. Y'all got prettier version.
You're gonna like that at home.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, would you like to maybe take a seat and sort of share a few words about your experience on this wonderful board?
Tell the video people they might be 2 hours late tonight.
We changed our mind.
If that's the case.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody. This means a lot to me. This is something that I'm a graduate from 1983 from this school in mechanical electrical drafting, and to come the steps that I have experienced. It's something special to me. And to finish it off where I graduated with, in the rain, out on the Harold Bell football field, to be the guest speaker for the graduation commencement ceremonies this year at the Songus Center. It just, in my mind, brings what this board, past, present, and future members, how they take this seriously and how they always want to make sure that the kids get the best that's available to them. And all I can say is that I did this. This is why I wrote you guys little notes on the side, because I don't think I would have made it. I appreciate everything all of you guys have done. We all have had differences of opinions, but we've all been in the same boat, rowing in the same direction for the kids. And it was the best 4 years of my life. And when I tell people, when they ask me, do you feel bad that you lost the election? I said, the only thing I feel bad about is that I'm not on the Greater Lowell board anymore, because this was a very big piece of my life, and it's not going away. There's a really good guy that has taken my place, who's also a graduate from here, and I know he feels the same of what I'm saying right now. So it's one of those things that I can't put into words, but this has completed my Greater Lowell career from start to finish. And I just want to thank everybody who put me in the Drake residence, and all you guys for putting up with me and my long-windedness. And I will stop right there because I know you guys want to go home. So I want to thank you very much.
Mr. Gigi?
I want to thank you personally, and you're a great example when you make your bed.
You know, I don't think this is really going to be your last trip to Greater Lowell, all right, as a candidate, because knowing your family and kids, I can see they're campaigning already for a seat someday in politics, really. I think you taught, and I think I know what boy I'm talking about. I think you've taught them very good. They were a very good chauffeur for you during some of your times, but I'll tell you, your kids are great, and I'm sure we'll see your name, Espinola, again at Greater Lowell.
Thank you, George. I appreciate that. Paul might know who that person you're talking to is. And Ray had mentioned something to me, and I had written everybody a little note as a parting words for the way I felt about each and every one on this. And it got harder and harder as I was writing. I wrote them all at the same time, and tears were falling out of my eyes, and I was writing with a felt pen. And I got to the last one. I don't even know where I started or where I ended, but I couldn't even read the last one. So if you can't read what I read, I can't either. So just know that I appreciate each and everybody at this table, and everybody that has been part of my process and my career here at Greater Lowell. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your service, Joe.
I could come tomorrow and get this.
Okay.
I'll bring someone bigger than me.
Oh, they don't come that big.
Terrific. Oh, my God, you're going now.
Someday
And everything.
I'm gone.
someday someone's going to whack me, you know that.
Thought he was looking for a reason to come back.
I'd always need a reason to come back. It's a great place. Okay, so if we could move on with the meeting, if we could have an approval of our minutes from the February 14, 2019 meeting.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Moran, seconded by Mr. Sheehan. Roll call, please.
Mr. O'Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Sheehan?
Yes.
Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Booton?
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias?
Yes.
Mr. Gigi?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Okay. We're going to have the approval of warrants. Maybe we could entertain a motion to waive the reading. By Mr. Moran, seconded by Mr. Booton. Roll call?
Mr. O'Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Sheehan?
Yes.
Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Booton?
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias?
Yes.
Mr. Gigi?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Motion to approve the expenditures for the sum of $3,881,316.47. Motion by Mr. Moran, seconded by Mr. O'Hare. Roll call, please.
Mr. O'Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Sheehan? Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Booton?
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias?
Yes.
Mr. Gigi?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Yes. We have on the agenda is item 8, report of our general counsel. We're going to take that at the end of the meeting, if that's okay. And after that, we have the, that's okay, we'll take it at the end of the meeting. Next on the agenda is the report of our Superintendent-Director, Mr. Mastrocola.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. First on the agenda, after an extensive search, including multiple interview sessions, the interview search team has recommended a candidate for a new business manager position. That candidate is Mr. Michael Knight. Michael's experience, coupled with his knowledge of regional school districts, his business management and financial acumen, presented strengths throughout the interview process. His experience as a current business manager allows for a smooth transition in all aspects of the business office. His start date is targeted for July 1st. However, we anticipate his presence over the next several months. Before I formally introduce Mike for a second, I do want to mention the search team, and I want to thank them publicly for their time. This was more than a search team, it was a dream team. Mr. Bahu, Mr. Gigi, Mr. Moran, who are representing the school committee, thank you for the time. There were multiple hours that went into this process, and I know you all have other commitments and work commitments, and the school district appreciates your time. I want to thank Ms. Davis, Ms. Tierney, Mr. Garabedian, Ms. Reese, Ms. Fode, Ms. Roy. Thank you for this team. I think we have an outstanding candidate. I'd like to introduce Mr. Michael Knight.
Mr. Knight.
Not much for speeches, but I do want to say thank you for the opportunity. I'm very excited to get running here at Greater Lowell Tech. Look, from what I've seen, the school committee has a great direction. The business office is very well staffed with experienced individuals, and I'm really hoping to be part of furthering that educational vision that the school committee is looking to take on. So I appreciate everyone, and I'm ready to go and very excited.
Sure. And I just want to say one thing. You know, we had a number of meetings to discuss who the business manager would be, Mike. And, you know, as the interviews went on, we had a lot of very strong candidates. We had many applications, well over 20. And I think the one thing that sort of stood tall behind me is, behind you, is how the business office, many of those people were on that committee, and they felt that you would be the best person to work with through the way that you could identify issues, work with people, and be able to elaborate and roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty and get right into the crux of the matter. So we're excited to have you here, and we thank you for applying to Greater Lowell Tech.
Thank you, and again, super excited to go.
Thank you. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, okay. If we could,
I'd also like to thank the superintendent for putting that committee together, for doing the search. He also did a lot of work on it, so thank you for that.
thank you, Mr. Moore. Okay, if we could go ahead and have a vote for the recommendation by the superintendent of Mr. Michael Knight for our school business administrator. Motion by Mr. Moran, seconded by Mr. Gigi. Roll call.
Mr. O'Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Sheehan?
Yes.
Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Booton?
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias? Mr. Gigi?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Okay.
Congratulations.
There's Mike.
Look how happy George is.
Congratulations
see it in
to
your
George as
face.
well.
Okay. Next item on the agenda. Excuse me a second. As part of the superintendent's responsibilities per school committee policy, which is in your packet, I need to appoint 6 members to the school naming committee. As we've discussed in the past, the school naming committee has not met, has not been together, so this would be the first step of putting this committee together. It's made up of a current teacher, retired teacher, current administrator, retired administrator, parent representative, and an alumni. The school committee chair and 2 other school committee members are also part of that committee. We can have that a vote at the next meeting, but I just wanted to get this rolling. I'm asking that the school committee vote for the members which I've approved, and we can start the school naming committee at some point over the next several months. We do have a few requests that have come in. My appointments are as follow: the current teacher, Deb Lagasse; the alumni, Sean Hall; retired teacher, Paul Moran; parent representative, Andrew Bladis; current administrator, new business manager, TBA. I guess I could change that to Mike now. And retired administrator, Tim Fallon. So I need a vote so I can start this naming committee.
Okay, motion by Mr. Sheehan to approve the superintendent's appointment of the school naming committee, seconded by Mr. Tatsias. Roll call.
Mr. O'Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Sheehan?
Yes.
Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Booton?
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias? Mr. Gigi?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Next item on the agenda is a donation approval in the amount of $2,864 from the Greater Lowell Community Foundation, made possible through the generosity and recommendation of Mark and Elisa Saab. It's going to go to our Student Activities Fund. It's going to provide annual support for student activities and to encourage and sustain educational, social, and civic development of students. A copy of the donation letter is included in the packet. Need a vote.
Okay. Motion for the approval of donation by Mr. Gigi, seconded by Mr. Booton. Roll call.
Mr. O'Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Sheehan?
Yes.
Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Booton?
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias? Mr. Gigi?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Wanted to inform you, we've been awarded a small grant, $3,000 from the Restoration, Preservation, and Mentorship Foundation for our auto collision program. I want to thank Mr. Cornelia for his hard work in putting this together, and Mr. Sarro and the Title I facilitator, Ms. Bommel, for their work putting this together. I know this is a small grant, but this is probably one of the few grants that we've gotten for this area in a long time. So I think it's a good start. It shows that our new cluster leader is committed to moving forward with these type of endeavors. I foresee that this grant could be a yearly grant to us. This will be used to help prepare the RPM ambassador to see us in action, give some feedback to us, and be able to use some of the resources for our youth and students in automotive restoration and preservation for certain types of things that we work on. No vote, this was information only. Last item, number 5, is the February Cooperative Education Report. Really proud to say that we're now at 39%, higher than last year for our co-op students for February. I can tell you that the next report's going to be higher for sure. That's a good thing. We also, as of February, have 19 juniors. That's pretty good for this time of year to have 19 juniors involved. I also like to mention new relationships. BEA, who we have a long-standing relationship, and we have many, many students working at BEA at a variety of different BEA locations. But we just placed 8 students in their facilities area, which is a new co-op opportunity that we didn't have in the past. So I wanted to be able to say that and thank BAE for their relationship going forward. And I'm really proud about how we're working with co-op at this point.
What I want to say is this is very exciting news. For our co-op numbers to be increased from 7 or 5 years ago in the low 20s to the mid-20s to the 30s, and now we're at 39%, really speaks volumes for our co-op program, our co-op director, and our students. So, I mean, it just really, it does take a village, and we have been moving forward very well on this. So, thank you for keeping an eye on this. Okay, so that covers our report of the Superintendent-Director. Now, is there a report about Business Manager?
Yes, good evening.
I did. Oh, George.
The only thing we have on my agenda is discussion on the proposed fiscal 2020 budget for the district. As you know,
What's the contract?
we've started this process back in October with the instruction of submitting funding requests, followed up by various department head meetings and numerous meetings with the superintendent. Included in that were follow-up 2 finance subcommittee meetings reviewing and getting the input from the school committee. As you know, tonight, previously, we had our public hearing on the budget. The proposed budget of $46,655,115 was approved by the committee at the public hearing. The proposed budget is based on the Chapter 70 and minimum required contributions amounts for the member communities based on the governor's budget that was released January 23rd, 2019. In addition to the contribution, the district's also assessing a portion of the transportation costs and debt service per the regional agreements. If you want to go into the highlights, or...
I think that's fine. We did have a budget hearing before this meeting started. It was taped, so it will be viewed by all of our sending districts on their local cable access television channels. So I would say we voted unanimously to approve that budget of $46,655,114, and we just thank you for your report, Mr. Garabedian.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any items under old business that we would, go ahead, Mr. Garabedian, step right back
I think
up.
we still need to vote. We need to vote.
Oh, we're gonna
We
vote
voted
on,
the subcommittee, now we need to vote on this.
vote on it again?
I
Okay,
believe.
cool. Let's do a roll call on the approval of the FY fiscal year 2020 budget of $46,655,114.
We need a first and a second, Sharon?
Motion by Mr. Booton, seconded by Mr. Gigi. Roll call.
Mr. O'Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Sheehan? Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Booton?
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias? Mr. Gigi?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Okay. Next item would be old business. Does anybody have anything that they would like to discuss under old business? Okay. Moving forward,
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm a little late. Under the old business that we talked about at the athletics and the superintendent's wall at our last meeting, is any action taken place since that discussion we had at our last meeting?
no, there hasn't been. We've been working on the budget, so I think that that was something that was sort of taking priority, but I think we should bring that back up on the next meeting.
Okay.
So that we can go ahead and sort of put it on our agenda and have a discussion about it. Would that be?
Okay, yeah, because I think it's just been sitting there and not anything.
Sure, and I think
So
April
let's get
would be
this
a
out-
great time to
Let's get this
discuss.
out of the way, you know?
Before the next meeting, could we meet at 5:30
Well,
to talk about this? I'd be willing to meet with Mr. O'Hare or the superintendent and maybe one other member who might be interested, or anybody.
Sure, just to go ahead and iron out some details and such
Some
like that.
Details, and then we can make a presentation at
Okay,
the,
would 6 PM work, or
I think, yeah, I think.
6 PM could cover a lot of ground?
Mastrocola, you think 6 or 5?
Yeah, it's fine. I was actually going to try to prepare some sort of report, some thoughts maybe, and get some thoughts from some other members of the education community here, and maybe put a one-page summary together of how we may be able to do this, what a location may be.
Maybe it doesn't have to be a meeting if it's just me and Mr. O'Hare. Maybe we can come in a little bit early that day.
Sounds
and
great. I'll pull
speak
something
with him.
together.
Is that okay, George?
yes.
Okay.
In addition to that, just trying to extend that a little bit, also was the superintendent's wall. Now, although they're two separate and distinct things, but they do kind of equal each other, and I think we should talk on that because that's been sitting for a long time before any work has been done. As a matter of fact, tools and everything that we need at the school is starting to move in and take away the dedications that have been made in the past. Okay, if those two things could be discussed, Mr. Booton, right?
Sounds good.
Yeah, good.
Absolutely. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Let's do it, 5:30 it is. Okay, let it be written. Okay, now, next items are under new business. We had a meeting recently about the Superintendent-Director's contract extension. It was an extension for 6 months through January 1, 2020. It was discussed extensively, so if we could just have a roll call to approve his 6-month extension to January 1, 2020. It did come with a 2% pay raise. And we just went with the same terms that he had in his previous contract. Now, if I could have a motion by Mr. O'Hare, seconded by Mr. Gigi. Roll call.
Mr. O'Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Sheehan?
Yes.
Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Booton?
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias?
Yes.
Mr. Gigi?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Next on the agenda would be our annual reorganization of our committee and elected officers to take effect on April 1, 2019. Excuse me. So I'd like to entertain a recommendation by a school committee member of a chairman. Mr. Booton?
I'd like to nominate Curtis LeMay for chair.
Okay, if I could have a second on that. Second by Mr. Tatsias. Okay, if we could go ahead and, Ms. Gosselin, pass.
Extension to the contract. So sign anywhere.
Oh, are there any other nominations for the chairman? Okay. Terrific.
Joe Espinola. He had enough time getting the chair out the door. You say that, his head will swell.
Always nominated.
That one's yours. Pass that down already.
You're right, he did. After your ballots are filled out and signed,
Ballot.
Oh, yours, I think, is underneath.
I got your pen.
Yeah, all right.
so if you could go ahead and cast your vote, and then sign it and pass them all forward to our secretary, Ms. Gosselin.
Voted for you.
Just looked. You're a fibber.
Seven votes.
Okay. We had 7 votes for Mr. Lemay as our next chairman beginning April 1st. So Mr. Lemay will be our next chairman. Next on that agenda would be for our vice chairman. If I could have a recommendation by a school committee member, Mr. Sheehan.
I'd like to nominate Paul Moran as vice chair.
Okay, nominated Paul Moran. Mr. Tatsias, second that. Okay. Would there be any other nominations? Perfect. We could pass out the ballots, please.
Ballot this time.
I got 2 vice chairpersons. Thank you. It was.
I tried to put them in.
Good job.
Thank you, George.
Okay.
7.
Okay, 7 votes for Paul Moran. So, it looks like
Congratulations.
our next vice chairman will be Mr. Moran from Drake. And open nomination for the secretary serving next year. Mr. Moran, would you like to nominate someone?
Nominate Jimson Gigi.
Okay. Seconded, Mr. Booton?
Yes, please.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for secretary? No? If you could pass out the ballots, please. Thank you very much.
Oh, I was gonna sign it twice.
Did you give Ray his?
He's filling in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You doing my ballot too?
You're not supposed to see that.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah.
Superintendent, beautiful.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, next item on the agenda would...
Congratulations, Mr. Gigi.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, we don't have the ballots yet. But there was only one nominee, and I'm gonna guess the vote was
Could be
7 for
4-4.
Mr. Giggy and 0 for any other member as our secretary. Is that correct?
You guys are doing real good
That is correct. Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone. Hang in there, you're welcome.
We're very happy for you. Okay, next would be committee persons' motions. There are no motions.
I just, something under new business.
Sure.
Between the break between the public meeting and this meeting, I was discussing with the superintendent and yourself about our smart boards technology. And I asked about getting a tour, and it was suggested that we have somebody come in next week and give the committee a short tutorial, thank you, of the smart boards. And I was also asking about what do we have for students technology-wise as far as software that they can work at home for math, science. So if we could get that for next meeting, that would be great.
Okay, I think that's a great idea, Mr. Booton. It's always nice to see what the students are learning on here at Greater Lowell Tech and how we can share that with the public.
Half your idea, so thanks.
Great job, Mr. Bootens. Okay, next would be committee persons' motions, and there are none. So then we'll move on to our report of our general counsel on the...
Minutes to approve.
We'll get there. Next, we'll move to the report of our general counsel and update on the status of our regional agreement language amendment. Mr. Maccaro, welcome.
Good evening. And
Good evening.
Congratulations to those newly elected officers. I just wanted to update you on the status of the motion that you had made in January. If you recall, at the January 10th meeting, there was a motion that was approved to amend your regional agreement to change and clarify when newly elected members would take office. As I had told you then, once the vote occurred here in front of this committee, the change to the agreement had to be sent to DESE for their approval. I sent a letter to the department, to DESE. It is in your packet that you can see. And in my letter, I outlined what the current language was and what the language was that was approved in January. I did receive a call from DESE. I've been speaking to Ruth Hirsch there. She is the Assistant Director of the Office of Regional Governance. What she explained when she reached out after getting this letter was that she needed from us a Word version, electronic copy of your regional school district agreement with proposed red line changes in it. I will tell you that has been sent to DESE. We had to put that together. As you've probably seen your regional agreement, it was created in 1964, I believe. It's a photocopy is all we have, and it's typed with that old line paper. Cheryl worked with us. We recreated that. We then had the other issue of, since that document came, you had the language of the consent decree a few years ago. So we have to outline for DESE, here are the changes that came through from the consent decree, and here are the changes that you voted to amend in January. They now have that, and it's in their hands. They will then look through it in their office and give us any, according to her, give us any feedback that they may have, whether or not they approve of our language or not. Once we get, as I said before, once we get their positive review, then we can send that language to the towns for their approval at their annual town meetings. But given the pace of this, I just wanted to let you know it's not going to happen, I believe, for these upcoming town meetings. But that is where we're at right now. DESE now has everything that they have asked for from us, and it is in their hands and they're reviewing it.
Okay, so I guess there may be a few questions. Are there any questions?
Could it possibly come up in the fall?
Hopefully. I mean, I can reach out if you would like to Ruth now that she has that and just say, do you have any anticipated timeline for us? I told her that I was going to be here and just give an update to that matter right there. Again, that to recreate the document to take a little time, and there's been a back and forth on that. So yeah, we do have some town meetings coming up. Now, we would have to put it on the agenda within 45 days prior to the town meeting, is that correct? I would have to look at every town meeting what their requirements are, but given the fact that we need to get DESE approval before we could even go ahead and put that language there, so where a lot of town meetings are coming up, I think, next month they might even start, unlikely that your amendment's going to get on your Springtown meetings. Maybe there's an opportunity for the fall.
Sure. Now, I know Lowell doesn't come up till June, so if we could go ahead, or have you go ahead and call, I forget the woman's name.
Yeah, I'll reach out to her. She's been very good to work with so
Reach out to her in the next,
far.
number of days, just to see if she can just sort of maybe get that paperwork shuffling, because even if we can just get it to Lowell and maybe Dunstable, which may be in June, and because we know that Drake has another town meeting, is that correct?
Yeah, in the fall?
They have one in November, and does Tingsboro have two town meetings or only one? They may have two as well. That way, we could maybe get this ball rolling and keep this moving forward rather than have to wait a full year before we started this agreement. Okay, well,
Excellent.
is there anything else, Mr. Maccaro?
No, that is it. Thank you very much.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you for the report. Okay, if we could, we have a report of the subcommittee approval of minutes from February 7, 2019, which was a finance subcommittee.
Motion for approval?
Motion to approve by Mr. Booton, seconded by Mr. Gigi. Roll call.
Mr. O'Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Sheehan?
Yes.
Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Booton?
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias?
Yes.
Mr. Gigi?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
And on behalf of the previous elected chairman to this board, Joe Espinola, I conclude this meeting as the chairman, as Mr. Espinola was. If we could have a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved. Motion to adjourn.
Second by Mr. O'Hare.
Mr. O'Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Sheehan?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Booton? Mr. Booton?
Yes.
Mr. Tatsias?
Yes.
Mr. Gigi?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Thank you for your hard work.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Fred.
We're adjourned. Happy days.